Before I start reading this chapter of Pax, I would like to dedicate this video, this chapter of Pax, chapter 22, to a person who's been commenting on my Pax videos the past 2 hours. His name is OB, and I would love to, I'm dedicating this video to you, buddy, because you're freaking asking me over and over again. Alright, let's do this. Peter lit the 4 big lanterns hanging from the barn rafters. The tools, the sharpening wheel, the wall full of puppets, all glowed warm and cheerful in the cones of amber light. Even the hay shone like Rumpelstiltskin's gold. The barn looked reborn but familiar. He knew it like a home now. Home. As soon as he'd put on Vola's puppet show, just another hour from now, he would finally be free to start out again. He lit the 2 small lanterns near the stage and lifted Sinbad from the wall. Showtime. The marionette's black eyes looked back at him blankly. Peter checked the joints, still amazed that Vola had taken the puppet apart just so he could learn its secrets. And suddenly Vola's secret philosophy card flashed in his mind. I would have been a good teacher. She was right about that. He thought about how easily she suggested techniques in his drills without making a big deal of anything. How she had him watch while she carved, then let him figure out things for himself. How she asked him questions about everything and didn't answer for him, but she was all wrong about being too dangerous to be near people. Anyone who knew her would tell her that. The problem was that no one knew her, except maybe him. He hung the marionette back on the wall. I think, Sinbad, I'm going to give you the night off. He went outside and fished a wrist-thick limb out of the brush pile. Back inside, he sawed off the ends and nailed a base. He lashed the rock's tin bowl nest to the top, then fixed it on the stage. Next, he lifted the sorceress puppet from its perch and unscrewed its left leg. Ready, Vola called out. Peter climbed the stack of hay bales he'd set up behind the stage and picked up the sorceress's controls. Surprised his hands weren't shaking, because suddenly everything he'd been so sure of an hour ago now seemed like a terrible idea. When she'd come into the barn, Vola had been wearing a long purple skirt instead of her overalls, and she had combined her hair. And she had combed her hair, something Peter had never seen before, but she had been astounded at the stage he'd built, and it hadn't been an act. You have the makings of a woodworker, she said. If I were in the market for an apprentice, I'd offer you the spot. In another few minutes, what would she think of him? It was too late for second-guessing, though. Ready, he lied. Vola turned down the 4 overhead lanterns. Then Peter heard her drag a stool to the middle of the barn. This is the story of a girl, he said. He heard Vola taking a sharp breath, and then he didn't hear a sound after that. Not when he pulled the curtain and drew the sorceress up from the plank. Not when the seed corn he piled on her stomach like peaches spilled off. Not when he wrapped her in his camouflage t-shirt, tucked her hair into a clay bowl helmet, and slid the stick into her hand as a rifle. Not when he had her shoot the rifle. Not when he unscrewed her leg. Not when he made her climb to the nest. Peter had expected a protest when he lit the nest on fire, but still Vola didn't make a sound. And just as he'd practiced, the fire was only a momentary flare, as the handful of wood shavings in the bowl flashed up. Just enough time for him to take off the marionette's army uniform. He drew her up out of the nest and eased her to the stage, where he'd propped the child puppet beside his carved fox. He had her bent low to the child, then turn and stroke the fox. And then he pulled the curtain. Peter hung the controls. He waited. But still there was only silence. He stretched to look over the stage. Lola stared straight ahead, right through him. Her face was as rigid as if it had been carved of wood. The tears streaming down her cheeks gleamed in the flickering light. Somehow they only served to make her look noble. "I'm sorry, I only meant you're not a grenade. You're good. You took me in. You're training me so I can get packs. Leave me alone, boy." Her voice was low and wire-tight. I think it's stupid to waste your life out here for some kind of punishment. I mean, maybe that guy didn't even care about that book. Maybe he won it in a poker game the night before. Maybe he cared about I don't know. Peter steeled himself. Being a teacher or something. At the word teacher, Lola shot her chin at him, but he didn't look away. Yeah, maybe he wanted to be a teacher, so maybe you should go do that for him, but you'll never know. So I think you should just go out and live your life. I'm just saying that whatever bad thing wrecked you before, you could start over, like a phoenix. And I know what you're saying. You're not wrong, but get out of here, now. Leave me be. Peter started to argue, but his words withered at the sight of her sitting so still, head so high, tears now rolling down her neck. He wrapped the sorcerer's controls, and then climbed down from the hay bales and picked up his crutches. The silence of the barn left enormous. Okay, he said, just to break it. The walk to the cabin in the dark took forever. Inside, a covered plate rested on the counter. He slumped against the door frame, washed in guilt. Lola had made it up for him from the dinner leftovers. "You picked this chicken clean later tonight, you hear me?" A fresh wave of guilt. She'd killed a chicken, something she didn't do often because she wanted him to have more protein. Peter shoved off from the door frame and scooped up a box of matches beside the stove. He had no idea how long she'd stay out there, but when she came back in, it wouldn't be to a cold, dark cabin. This much he could do for her. He lit all the lamps and then laid a fire just the way he'd seen Vola do it each night. Sitting there, watching it catch and grow, he replayed everything he'd said. It had all been true. While the part about the soldier he wanted to be a teacher had probably pushed it. But who knew? Maybe he had. No. There wasn't a single thing he hadn't meant to say. Nothing he regretted. A gust blew down the chimney, frightening the fragile fire. He reached for another section of newspaper. As he crumpled it, a headline caught his eye. "Forces prepare to engage area to be evacuated." He flattened the sheet and read. He studied the map, unbelieving, and then grabbed his crutches and pegged out to the forge so fast that Francois scrambled from his nest and shot out into the night. He jammed his clothes into his pack and looked around. The phoenix bracelet, the photo of his mother, and his mitt and ball were the only things in the room. He propped the bracelet onto his hammock where Vola would find it, dropped the other things into the pack, and swung into the kitchen. Vola was just coming in. She hung her hat on the peg and looked over to the fire, then back at him, at his pack. He handed the sheet of newspaper to her. Vola scanned, then looked up for an explanation. She pointed at the map. "The area they're closing off?" He choked. "That's only 5 miles from where I left packs. Are you sure it's a bigger?" "I'm sure. See this empty place? It's an abandoned rope mill. It's got all these high stone walls and it sits overlooking the river, at the only place you can cross it. The rest is gorge. That's where they'll fight for the water. My friends and I used to play war at that mill. We said it was the perfect place for an ambush. We played war. I left packs on the road leading up to it, thinking it would be the word safe stuck in his throat. He shot up and lurched over to the pegs at the door to grab his sweatshirt. Stop. They're preparing for battle there. Don't be crazy. It's not crazy. It's right. I know it now. Remember the cheese? You asked what kind I liked. And I didn't know? My father liked cheddar. So that's what we have. Maybe I used to like something else. It's like you said. I had that forgetting who you are disorder. I didn't remember what was right and what was wrong then. I left Pax, but now I do. I now know. I need to get there. I know that. Alright, maybe so, but you're still on one leg, boy. It isn't possible. Look at this distance. Vola sat with the map. No, I've wasted enough time. I'm not listening anymore. Hold on. Vola did the paper. You come over here. Say something. Peter frowned, but he swung back over. Robert Johnson, bus driver friend I've been telling you about? He's been mailing your letters? See this spot here? She tapped on the top left corner of the map in the article. That town is the final stop on his route. He passes through here at 11 Tuesdays and Saturdays, and this is where he pulls up at the end of the night. What if I put you on that bus tomorrow? Seems like that would save you at least 250 miles. Leave you about 40 to cover on your own. You listening now? Peter dropped his crutches and sank into the chair. Jelly lagged with relief. You do that for me? Only 40 miles? That's nothing. No, 40 miles across woods and hills on crutches is not nothing. 3 days at least, I'd figure. And it'll just about kill you. But I think you can do it. So you'll stay the night now. Deal? Peter took her hand and met her gaze. Deal. Looking at Vola, her face still tear-streaked from what had happened in the barn. He knew he couldn't leave his things as broken as they were, and he didn't have much time to fix them. Deal, he said again, on 3 conditions. Yo, dude, that's a frickin' rad way to frickin' end a chapter. Woo! Well, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of PAX. I'll be coming back later this week for more PAX. Let me just put this in the right slot. I'll be coming back later this week for more PAX. If you guys want more PAX, remember to leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Remember, this episode is dedicated to OB, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!